What's up, YouTube? All right, so I've seen a lot of videos with the Yong Heng compressor. This is my setup. I took ideas from several other YouTube videos and kind of made my own setup here. Um, as you can see, I have two desiccant filters for my intake air. I use two acrylic tubes, 2¼ inch OD. Um, Unfortunately, the PVC caps and clean out caps are slightly bigger. I was able to use a adhesive. Let me see if I can find the tube. I got this stuff right here and kind of filled in the gaps, and it worked really well. It was probably a 16th big all the way around, and this stuff took up the slop, which was nice. As you can see, I don't know if you can see inside the tube, I have a hose washer screen covering the hole so no desiccant can get into the intake system. The beads vibrate quite a bit with the machine running, so this was a good addition. I also have a hose washer on the underside of this cap to let the air in, so the air comes in, goes up, and then across. So I have two of these just to make sure I have enough air intake. I didn't want to choke the compressor, so plenty of air going in, and got the tube sealed up tight, so I know it's pulling air through the desiccant, which is good. And the added bonus of the vibration is it rotates the desiccant around, so it really kind of moves things around, and I think it helps with airflow. But not only that, it keeps the desiccant moving so that it all ultimately, or it takes the air and takes the moisture out, because it keeps moving and moving and moving. They move quite a bit. They kind of roll around in there, so it's nice. So moving on, I saw another video. I don't know who the person is that did this. It's a short video. It's like 2 minutes long, and it was titled Yong Heng 45 degrees Celsius. Well, it just so happens I have an inline duct fan from another project. I have a airbrush booth that I made, and I bought this bad boy for it, and it is powerful. I had already put a dimmer switch on it because it was so powerful that it would suck the paint right out of the airbrush before it could even hit what I was trying to airbrush. So I had to put the dimmer switch on it to turn down the speed, because it was just too powerful. With this setup, I run it full bore. I believe it's almost 800, yeah, 745 CFM, so that moves some air. I mean, it's very powerful. It puts to shame the fan that's on the unit itself. So with the two of these blowing into the compressor, I think it really helps keep the temperature down quite a bit. As you know, heat is the enemy of this machine. I try not to run it for more than 20 minutes at a time. Sometimes I go a little longer. I've been filling my tanks. I got two brand new tanks, big tanks. I've been filling them about 1,000 PSI at a time. After my first tank, I changed the oil. It started looking pretty black already, so I've been running the royal purple oil. A lot of the guys have been using that, so I went with that. And you can see if you can see that or not, but it's pretty black comparatively to what the stuff looks like. I mean, it's purple when you put it in, and so I thought it was a good idea. I mean, what's that hurt to change the oil? The more you change the oil, the longer this thing's gonna last. And what the hell, for what it costs for a quart of that oil, it's well worth the oil change. I think I can almost get, I don't know if I have quite enough for one more oil change, but I got definitely two full oils in there, and I think there might be just enough for one more oil change out of a quart, which is nice. anyhow, I also have, let's go on to my filter setup on the other side here. So we got our air line coming out. We have everybody calls this the cigarette filter, but that's a big cigarette filter. But it's got the cotton filter inside here. So I've got the air coming out to the cotton filter, which is a nice pre-filter for oil and moisture. Something else I do, and I saw some other guys doing this, is I purge the bleed valve every so often when I'm running this. It seems like it gets a lot of the air out before, or the moisture and oil out before it even makes it into here, because I think it kind of builds up in here and then makes it way down to the cigarette filter. So it helps to just every once in a while give it a purge, and you can see the moisture come out. So I do that, you know, every 4 or 5 minutes I give it a purge. I'm kind of looking into seeing if I can find an auto purge setup, something like they would have on like a air brake setup on a Mack truck. So it purges itself automatically every so often. From what I've found so far, they're pretty pricey, and it's kind of hard to find one for this small of a scale. So I'm going to keep looking and see what I can come up with. Anyhow, so the air continues on through a stainless steel hose that I purchased. Come down here, and I got this idea from someone else. You might have seen his videos, gentleman. I think he's from New York area. He's got several videos on the Yong Heng, his filter setup, etc., etc. He's very detailed, which was helpful because I was able to get this bleed valve and all these extra parts and stuff from his videos. He gives you everything you got on Amazon, which was really nice. It took me several tries to get the right information from him, but of starting the video and stopping it, and anyway, so I was able to get all the parts. It's nice to have a bleed valve here also. I also purge this bleed valve during running the compressor, so I'll purge the upper and the lower, and I think it helps just get the moisture out of the line. When it's under high pressure, it really just shoots right out, and it's very helpful. So anyways, it continues up. This desiccant filter is actually the molecular sieve. It's a Tuxing. I like this one because I've seen a lot of guys buy these and they just have the cotton in them, and unfortunately the cotton, as we all know, is okay at the cigarette filter, but when you get to here, it's really helpful to have the molecular sieve. So I've seen a lot of guys retrofit these with a PVC tube and then put molecular sieve in. Well, Tuxing actually sells one that they sell several different models. They sell just a cotton, they sell a molecular sieve that has the little round balls, which look like this. I've added some blue decadent. I can hardly say that properly, but so I know when these are filled with moisture and to change them, kind of like an indication. But they also sell other models that have charcoal, the molecular sieve, and the decadent all in one. So they have it split into thirds with cotton in between each layer. This one just came with molecular sieve, and what I did was I got some activated charcoal, and I think that really helps. It helps some with the moisture, but it helps with the oil smell getting into your tank, so it doesn't smell like oil every time you shoot. So I took out the top third of the tube and put in the charcoal. Tuxing sends you extra cotton separators, which is nice. So I already had enough of the separators, so I just took out some of the molecular sieve, added the charcoal, pushed it all back together, made sure everything was nice and tight, and screwed it back together. So anyway, the air continues out of that. I think everybody's kind of running into this problem here. You've got a female to female connection, so I got a male to male connector, quick connect. Again, this was under the advice of the gentleman that I got this purge valve idea for, this bleed valve, and he's very detail oriented. His videos are very long. If you can sit through them, he's very helpful. So thank you to him. I wish I knew his name. Unfortunately, when I watch YouTube videos, I don't pay too close attention to the name of the person. I just look for the ideas. Again, I can't really take a lot of credit for any of these ideas. I just wanted to share with you guys where I came up, what I came up with, and how my setup's working. It works great. I did build this box out of plywood. to hold my tank. I had to put a leg underneath because it's just a little heavy for this little cart that I got. This cart came from Harbor Freight. It was 50 bucks. It's kind of cheap. You know, for what it is, it's great. I added some plywood to the shelves, and I screwed from underneath with some small screws just to, it kind of stiffens everything up. But this leg that I added to the box, it really keeps everything from shaking around, and it keeps the cart from moving. The cart's on wheels, so it keeps the cart from like kind of edging its way across the garage, which is good too, because I think you guys all know this thing is loud and it vibrates. But you know, it actually sits pretty still on the cart. It doesn't move around on the cart thanks to those little black suction cup feet they put on there. So overall, so far, the only problem I did have is when I went to start filling my second tank here. I just started. Unfortunately, I was near it, and I happened to see the pressure gauge start to dart up. I mean, I was here, and it went up to here in less than a second. I was like, oh boy. So I quickly opened the purge valve and shut the machine off. Little investigating. I think something came out of this setup. I'm not sure what it was. It was a small piece of something. Got lodged in the air hose. And I know this has a burst disc. I'm not sure what the PSI is, so the burst disc would have went and it would have been okay. I was just happy to be close to it when it happened. Other than that, this thing's been purring like a kitten. Really have had no problems. My advice to you would be, if you get one of these, when you first start running it, kind of stay close. Don't you know, turn it on and go in your house and watch a movie, because you know, it's like anything else. You buy the $200 when there's, you know, the average price of a PCB compressor is up. You know, for a decent one, you're looking at $1,000 or more, unless you want to buy one of those little car charger ones that charge with your battery in your car. I'm not a big fan of that idea. If you read into those, most of them are recommended for charging your gun directly. They're not really made for filling a big tank. So I've opted to go with the Yong Heng, and again, under the advice of this guy that I was watching that gave me the idea for the air filter and some other things here. There's tons of parts for these things. I mean, if you go, especially on AliExpress, I've never used AliExpress, but I took the app on my phone. I mean, you can get every single part for this thing. So if you're mechanically inclined like I am, and you're not scared to, you know, maybe have to fix this thing, then go for it. I mean, I paid $210 for this thing, shipped to my house. And, you know, really it's been fine. You know I've had to build stuff and add things, but really the initial investment all in, I think I got about maybe $300, $350 here. Again, if you got to buy one of these fans, it's going to up the cost. I happen to have one of these already. I've seen some guys use like the little computer fans. I saw a guy do a video where he hung a computer fan here. I think anything you can do to get the airflow moving around this thing would help. Doesn't necessarily have to be an inline duct fan. This is a 6-inch inline duct fan. But these things move some serious air. I mean, this thing has got some power. I mean, if you can look, I added a screen here because normally I would have a pipe here, so you wouldn't have access to this. It would be inline in a pipe. But because this is exposed, if you get near this, it would suck your clothes in here, and it would not be good. I mean, it has that much suction. They're very, very powerful. Anyhow, I bought some of these from Amazon. They're the refreezable little ice cube, and they're flexible, which is nice. So they kind of sit around the 5-gallon bucket, keep my water cold. Again, heat is the enemy. Try to keep the water as cold as possible. So between ice in the water and this fan, I can keep my temp right around 40 to 45 Celsius, which is freaking sweet. I could probably run this thing indefinitely with the addition of this fan. The temperature does slowly climb, but not like if you're just using water. I've seen some videos of guys using this setup, and I don't think they use enough water. I've seen really small containers. I guess that's okay if you're gonna fill just out your gun and it's a real quick fill, you're topping off. I guess that's all right. But for the kind of filling I'm gonna be doing for my tanks, again, these were brand new tanks that I bought. So I'm filling from zero. Obviously, when I go to refill, I won't be at zero, so there won't be as much stress on the compressor. I think I mentioned before, I do about 1,000 PSI at a time, which is about 15 or 20 minutes. And this thing it's been great. You know, I don't expect it to run forever, so I'm just trying to be preventative and try to keep it going as long as I can. One more thing I did to this is the thermometer they give you for this thing is like, if you look it up on Amazon or eBay, they're like $1.50, and they're not great. Let me see if I can find the thermometer here. Oh, here it is. That's the thermometer that comes with it. Obviously, it's made in China, just like the compressor. It's okay. It uses watch batteries. I'm not really a big fan of watch batteries. And it does not have an on-off button. That was my big thing. I was like, this thing doesn't have an on-off button, so you put the batteries in, and it's constantly on from the moment you put the batteries in. And the way it clips into the case of the compressor, you have to take this apart to unclip it and change the batteries. So I wasn't a big fan of that. So I got this on Amazon. I think it was $11. It's a hot loop. It's made for an oven. The probe and the wire actually go in the oven so it gives you a more consistent temperature than what your oven actually tells you, if you're trying to be really meticulous about baking or something. Anyways, this was also a drop-in unit, so I had to cut this bigger. It's a bigger unit, but as you can see, it has an on-off button, and you can change it from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So for 11 bucks and a little upgrade, I did have to drill out the head hole for where the probe goes in a little bit, because the probe is a little bit bigger. Just be careful when you do that, if you decide to do this, that you don't drill in too far into the head. I measured the depth of the head, and then I made sure I put a piece of tape on my drill bit so I didn't go in too far, because there's parts in here that you don't want to drill into. The piston, secondary piston plunger thing is in here, and you do not want to hit that. That would not be good. If you drill through and it will leak, and yeah, your compressor would be junk at that point. You'd have to replace the head, and then you'd be yelling at me, and who made that YouTube video and didn't tell me to stop my drill bit? Anyhow, I think I've rambled on enough. Any questions, comment down below. This is actually my first YouTube video ever, and hopefully I don't get made fun of too much. Anyway, have a good day, guys, and I hope this helped all you guys out there trying to start up with these Yong Hengs. Thanks.